It has to contain at least 4% salt. Okay? 4% salt. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for the non-country ham consumer, that 4% salt, guess what? It's going to light them up, all right? And they're going to say, how can you people eat this? It's so salty. And you're thinking, I don't taste anything. Must be that moonshine. So that's what we're going to do. And now we're going to put this cure on here. And this is cure that we get from Finchville. And this is about 2.5 pounds. 10 pounds of this cure will cure 100 pounds of ham. In here is the vast majority of this is salt. And there's nothing special. It's salt. I got an email, a couple of counties, they ran out of cure, mainly because they thought they needed 4 pounds of cure on the ham. That's really going to be good in August. That's, you know, we're talking probably 12% salt by the time we get done there. And they went out and bought, they said, well, what do we do? I said, just get some salt and some brown sugar and put it on there. Well, don't we need a special salt? It's salt. Okay, as long as it's table salt, not kosher salt where it's really big, but salt. Now, the red in there is a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of red pepper, and a little bit of paprika. The salt is what's going to preserve the ham. We don't need the black pepper, we don't need the red pepper, we don't need the paprika. What we need is the salt. But that black and red pepper and paprika, there's two schools of thought. One school of thought is, as these are going through the aging process outside, this is what freaks people out, is the fact that we're going to take these hams and leave them outside. It's easy this time of year for people to get their mind wrapped around this because it's cold outside. It's what, you know, and Todd, I had a conversation right before he got there with a county. They said, well, what do? We don't have a refrigerator big enough for all these hams. And I said, leave them outside. She goes, ain't that bad? I said, it's actually colder outside than it is any refrigerator that we have, okay? So we're okay, we're okay. But when June, July rolls around, those hams are still out there. Try explaining that to some folks, okay? I got to share a story with you. You're going to love this. I've often said as an extension specialist, when I retire, I'm going to write a book, all right? There's that saying that your parents probably told you that there's no such thing as a stupid question. We go right up to that line sometimes in extension. Every Thanksgiving I get this question. How long does a turkey have to grow before it becomes, or how long does a chicken have to grow before it becomes a turkey? Yeah, I've gotten that question. How long? Long time. We're talking genetically modified organism there, right? I worked retail 14 years, you know. My favorites were always the ones that came in 6 o'clock when the store was closing Thanksgiving Eve and said, we're having dinner tomorrow. I need a 25-pound turkey, and it's frozen. And they look at me and say, that's not going to fit in the microwave and fall out. Here's your sign. But at any rate, I get this phone call from a family, and a mother, to be exact. And this is about 3 or 4 years ago, and she said, you know, we just moved here from Los Angeles. That's what I said too, in my head. In my head. And she proceeded to tell me that in Los Angeles, the whole concept of 4-H is that it's livestock and farm kids and people wearing cowboy boots, and that's 4-H. And she moved here with her family to Kentucky. They had a neighbor. They lived in a subdivision, and the neighbor's kids were involved in 4-H, and she was really confused because there was no cattle, no pigs, no livestock or anything. And they told her, we do the 4-H Country Ham Project, and she thought that was a good idea. Heard a lot of good things about 4-H. And she said, we went there, and we like ham, and we put these hams, they showed us what we need to do, and she goes, I didn't know how they made a ham. And she said, it really alarmed me, Dr. Renfro, I just wanted you to know this. They hung those hams in a barn outside. And they said, these hams are going to stay there until August. And she goes, it's going to get hot in August, and they want us to eat that. I tried to explain to her what was going on, but I could just visually see my words going, okay? So it's hard for people to understand that. That's what the salt is there for. This is a way that food was preserved long before we had mechanical refrigeration. That's what that salt is doing. It's removing that water, because all life needs what to live? Water. And even bacteria. So if we take a lot of that water out of there, that bacteria can't survive. And guess what else bacteria does not like growing on? Salts. Exactly. So that salt's there to preserve it. That black pepper, red pepper, and paprika is in there to help add to the color. As well as there's an old wives' tale that I kind of alluded to earlier. As these are sitting outside, eventually they're going to attract bugs. And the thought is, bugs get on there and they bite that pepper and it's so harsh that they leave it alone. It doesn't work. Okay? Ty's done a good job of pre-treating the barn, so we shouldn't have those problems. All right? So that's what that's in there for. Now, what you're going to see floating on top of here is brown sugar. You can use white sugar. I prefer to use brown sugar. Basically, we're adding that to counteract the harshness of salt. If you notice in all your processed meats, hopefully the first ingredient you see in a processed meat item is meat. Okay? I was in Germany in October. I didn't always see that. Okay? Sometimes water was the first ingredient. All right? Meaning that's the most prominent. And usually it's followed by salt and then some sort of sweetener, whether it's sugar, corn syrup, solids, maple syrup, whatever. And so that's why the brown sugar's in there, is kind of counteract that harsh flavor. It's going to go into the ham with the salt. Kind of follows the salt in there. So a lot of people say, we want to make a sugar-cured ham. This is sugar-cured. Please do not say, I'm using pure sugar to cure my ham. Because what are you going to do? It's going to smell real funky about March, okay? All right? Country hams have taught me a lot, and I learned a lot, like, what do we do when a tornado goes through West Liberty? With country hams. Anybody heard that story about the country hams in West Liberty? The tornado went through there, and they got those big pipes they stick down in the rubble to see if there's a body down there, and they hit something soft, and they get excited and tear it out, only to find a 4-H ham at the bottom. I got some phone calls over that. Got a phone call 2 years ago. Lightning hit the ham house and exploded the ham house. When I say exploded, it was an Al-Qaeda explosion is what it was. I mean, there was nothing left of it. And then last year, my ultimate challenge is, got to a county in this region, big claw marks on the side of the ham house. How do we keep bears out of here? That's right. Well, I said a 30-06, so I was going a little bit heavier. I said, sit on top of that extension office with 30-06, that'll solve it. They didn't like that answer. Okay. So that's what we're going to rub this on here. Now, there's some safety things you need to do with this. You're going to have these gloves on. They're black, so you're going to look cool. Okay. And once you get all that you're rubbing the salt on the ham, do not do this. Or it's going to hurt it really bad, okay? Next, and we'll show you here in a second, we are going to, once we get the cure on there, we get it in the hock, we get it on top of the ham, we're going to wrap this paper up around it. We're doing what's called a bag cure. Now, this is a special paper. It does not contain wax. If for some reason you want to leave the comfort of quicksand and do this on your own, and you go buy butcher paper is waxed. Okay, the whole purpose of this non-wax paper is so that 70% water escapes. If you use wax paper, guess what happens? It stays there. And then what's going to happen about April? It's going to smell funny. There you go. Exactly. Exactly. So we use a waxless paper. Then we're going to put this ham sock on there. And you're going to look at this like you're trying to, that sock's not gonna fit on, it's gonna stretch, trust me. It'll get on there, all right? There's a seam at the bottom of this. And you're gonna try to take that seam at the bottom of that sock and put it right over that hock. And then you're gonna pull it back up over there, and that's gonna help create that teardrop shape. Okay? You ready for me to show you how to do this?
Yep.
You got a ham and paper and stuff for me? Yep, these guys gonna get there. We have any questions while we're gathering all that up? Yes, sir.
No pink salt involved.
Question, no pink salt involved. What he's referring to is nitrites. There's no pink salt in this or nitrites in this. However, there are naturally occurring nitrites in the salt. So we're okay there. You don't need the nitrites in there like you normally would. Some of you are wondering what we're getting at. Nitrites are added to cured meat for three main reasons. Number one, we like the flavor of nitrites. Number two, it produces that color of cured meat. We like that kind of grayish pink color. But the main reason we add it is it prevents the growth and sporulation of a pathogen known as Clostridium botulinum. And Clostridium botulinum causes what disease? Botulism. And that's nasty. Okay? But with these, we're okay. You can add it, but we use it very, very sparingly. Yes, sir.
No iodized salt, or is there iodized in that?
Yeah, there's iodized salt in here. It's okay. Nothing won't hurt at all. Nothing won't hurt at all. But you bring up a kind of a good kind of scenario. There's salt, but they're not all the same salt. Like there's flake salt, and there's a non-iodized, iodized. There's some of them have the anti-caking things in there. But you can use just regular table salt.
What's the ratio of sugar?
There's about 8 pounds, for the 10-pound cure mix, there's 8 pounds of salt, 2 pounds of sugar. 80-20. Yeah. Sea salt, if it's fine enough, will work. The challenge you get is the coarseness, and it's too coarse to go in there. Table salt, and that's why some of the professional guys will use what we call the flake salt, what we were talking about earlier. You can almost put that flake salt, it looks like snow, and it hits that and it just almost immediately goes in there. That's about $200 for a 50-pound bag. We don't do that. You guys want a good basketball team, sacrifices have to be made. Other questions? All right. I have already washed my hands. Even though you're wearing gloves, you need to wash your hands, or at least make sure they're clean. All right. And you got to put on. I'm going to try to. Hopefully, you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
My father is a now retired ag teacher, so I've got that kind of lecturing ag teacher voice from him. So hopefully, it'll carry. But put your gloves on. I believe there's medium and extra large down there. So you got your gloves on, they're ambidextrous. Well, actually, you look cool. Here's our green ham. You see the hock on there, it's a long hock. You will see some European hams that will have they'll have actually the whole hoof on there. They're going to cure their hams differently than what we do. Even though our forefathers brought that technology over from Europe, we do it a little bit differently. So what I like to do is leave about 2.5 inches of hock on the ham. And so, spin this over. I believe you have Sawzall, so your job is going to be a little bit easier, all right? If you get to use this, and I brought this down from Lexington out of Meat Lab, this is one of our meat salts, our hand salts. I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell the kids in class that I teach. This is a long blade. Let the blade do the work. All right? If you think you're going to manhandle it, you're going to come up here and this is what's going to happen. Or the other thing that drives me nuts is this. Wrong strokes. Okay? Once you're through the bone, knife, it goes without saying. Careful, these are sharp. If you drop the knife, do me a favor. Don't try to catch it and jump back. There you go. You catch it, stitches. Okay? So just let, and it seems like something obvious, I know, but we run into that. Now, again, if you're so inclined, you want to collect these, you can pull a little bit of meat in there, and maybe have enough for a sausage patty tomorrow morning. Not much in there. Soup beans, there you go, there you go. It doesn't have the smoky flavor, but yeah, you can do that. Okay? You can see how they look. Okay? It's going to be easier to get that cure in there. And so what I like to do, one thing I forgot to mention, shake your bag up to get your brown sugar mixture out there, all right? There's about 2.5 pounds in these bags, for these 25-pound hams. And as I'm kind of mixing this with my hand, just a little bit of a story time again. We normally try to put these in on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, mainly because the kids are out of school. However, the pork industry is going through a situation with this PEDV, this virus. Pork supplies are pretty low, and so we have to work around that. You know, 9 years ago, I bought these hams for 4-Hers for around 40 cents a pound. Now I'm paying about $1.30 a pound for these guys, okay? Pretty expensive, and that's supply. So, got it mixed up. I like to do a couple of things. Come in here and gently kind of separate the meat from the bone. And also come in here and kind of gently separate the skin as well. And what that does is that allows me to get in here and really pack that hog. Okay? Balls, make sure you got your paper down too before you do this. It's going to make life a little bit easier. Get down in and work it down in there. Like I said, you can't get too much down in here. And you can see how it's pulling back a little bit. Usually about 3 or 4 tablespoons down in there. You've got enough in there. Now, I've got a grad student who is interested in doing some research on country hams, and we kind of updated some of the older information. This salt and sugar is going to penetrate about 1 inch per week. All right? And that was kind of the old tale that we worked with, and we reevaluated, and it's right. It's going to penetrate about 1 inch per week. Now, not all the muscles are equal, but on average, it's going to penetrate about 1 inch per week. I got a little bit ahead of myself, folks. I'm sorry. Before you do that, come in here. See this fat right in here? Just kind of take that off of there. Just kind of pull and cut same time. There's a flank muscle up here. You can take that off. Be gentle. Okay? Same thing. See that? Again, a little bit more for sausage in the morning. Gotta watch closely. This is where it gets difficult. Okay? If you don't do this part right, we're in trouble. Okay? Get you a handful of cure. There you go. Get you another handful of cure. This is highly scientific stuff, folks. Okay? So yeah, you just, and it's nothing real scientific about it. Okay? Just going to pack that on there. You could even